The question was, why are there no squatty potties in the West? There's no Asian squatty potties in the West. And
Yeah, what's up with
okay, so this was an interesting research rabbit hole. Turns out you can get an Asian squatty potty. You can just get like you can get a porcelain Asian squatty potty. Okay, like the problem is that like the Asian squatty potties in the East have different plumbing underneath. They have a P trap in the ground underneath because usually they're set into the floor, and American toilets have the P trap in the toilet above ground, so they don't have that in their plumbing underneath.
that?
So if you're going to have, this is my assumption just from looking at all the pictures, if you're going to have a install an Asian squatty toilet in America, you need to have one that has a P trap also above ground, or you'd have to redo your plumbing underground. And so and that kind of just like really increases the price a lot. So like the
Wait,
simple Asian squatty potty toilets are usually like $40. They're really cheap. But like if you get one that's got like all the apparatus above ground, they're usually like 2 to 500. Um,
uh, okay, but this is not answering the question about like why they're not, like why aren't they, why did we originally go from squatty potties to regular toilets though? Um, when was the
oh,
transmission made for like sitting down on a toilet to,
if you wanted to know that, you should have asked.
I thought it was implied in the question. Why don't
No,
we have squatty potties in the West?
well, no, you're asking about the history of toilets. I have no idea. Like, I didn't research the history of
So you
toilets.
researched, the research you found said that squatty potties are more expensive to put in. Like if we were to make the transition today in our house from a regular toilet to a squatty potty,
Yeah.
it would be a lot more expensive because you have to do more plumbing on the underside.
No, you just have to get an above ground
An
toilet.
above ground squatty potty. So
Yeah.
you'd have to like step up. What
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
just
yeah.
made like a platform we could step up onto to use the toilet instead?
To use a toilet at home, that was exactly my next thought. So, okay, like this made me think about the squatty potty, the product, the shitty little stool product that like gets your knees up higher, supposedly helps you poop. I didn't find anyone who said that that was a terrible idea because I think it's a terrible idea. I've used them before many times. I never once thought that it actually helped me poop better.
Well, my assumption with the squatty potties was always that like it helps relieve pressure on certain tendons and like well they, even in that like promotional video for advertising the squatty potty, I was like, oh, your colon is like kinked when you're sitting down, so lifting your legs up will unkink your colon or whatever.
Maybe
But
it's just that I'm like a bigger person. Maybe that's the problem. But like my assumption is that you need to get your legs up a lot higher, like at least like minimum 2 to 4 inches higher, in order to actually like start to get like the help and the release that is promised by the squatting position.
mhm.
And I think I don't know because I haven't like tested or experimented, but it seems to me that like the fact that you're still sitting on the toilet while using it is also probably like making those tendons and muscles tight. Um, and I don't think you're not supposed to sit at all when you're squatting to poop. You're supposed to squat and not like without any
Yes,
putting
agreed.
any weight on your butt.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's like I don't know. Like I don't know. I want to do the research. Um,
not to mention when you have you ever tried to like get your legs up in like a very deep squat while you're sitting on the toilet? Because I've tried to, I think we tried to make one of our own one time,
I
but
yeah
it's
yeah yeah
just
yeah.
like exceptionally, as soon as you get past a certain point of having your legs raised while
Yeah,
still sitting on the
yeah.
toilet, it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's very, it also doesn't really make sense. Like you're supposed to squat. You're supposed to squat. I think like the real solution here is to make a squatty potty that is actually just like a platform around your toilet that makes it so that you can stand at the height of the top of the toilet bowl.
Yeah, so this
And
is,
then you can like squat like normal, like
so
raise the ground up to the level of your Western toilet.
yes.
That's probably like the real solution.
Well, the other option is just to squat on your actual Western toilet.
What, people do that? They're
It's
not made for
actually,
that.
they are not. It's actually a thing. They have to have signs in a lot of third world countries to say don't do that because a lot of people do it and then will fall and hurt themselves
Yeah.
trying to
Ew.
squat on a Western toilet. Like standing up and put your feet on like the toilet seat or like the rim of the
Yeah, yeah,
toilet
yeah.
bowl.
No part of the toilet is made for like
Also,
that
I've
sort of
always
thing.
wondered like, how do they not like just pee all over the floor and everywhere? Because most squatty potty toilets will have a little like cup shape for like to catch any stray urine that is like leaving. So, and regular toilets don't have that, which is also kind of a problem. Um,
Um,
Anyways,
actually, this is a weird thing to share, but I used to sit on the toilet and pee without uh adjusting my angle. And then like I stopped doing it because there were like too many times. I think especially when I'm like very when my dick is like very, I don't think it's very flaccid is the right word. It's like when when it's cold and your dick is very small, it like angles itself up higher. And then like there have been multiple times where I just like peed out of the toilet, and I was just like, so now I just like compulsively just like put a finger on it and push it down, and just like I'm not gonna pee out of the toilet. I always do it.
compulsion. Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Maybe
uh,
TMI, but it's a thing. I'm sure other people have had similar experiences. Anyways, okay. Is that enough about squatty potties? Should we move on to the next
wait,
question?
hang on, no, wait. All right, so there are a couple of different models of above ground Asian style Western adapted toilets you can buy. They were all very expensive, but a couple of them seemed very cool and nice, and um, and I do really want to try. I honestly don't think I have. I think I've squatted to poop, like actually squatted to poop, maybe like 5 times in my whole life, and that's something I really want to explore doing more. Like I really want to know if it does
Yeah.
actually help. It also seems like really great for hip mobility, and my hip
Well, the deep
mobility
squat,
is
yeah,
trash.
yeah, the deep squat is just beneficial all around. It does like a ton of stuff for your whole body to do
Yeah, yeah,
deep or do the
yeah,
Asian squat.
yeah.
But there's not really any options if you want to squat to poop. There's like literally you have to either go out in the woods. I think that's your only option. It's like to do it in your backyard
Or I think
or
no, I really think like the solution is this is really easy to DIY. Maybe you should try this because you have access to like a fucking toilet.
you could
You
make
just
a
like,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I could. I don't think I could. I mean, like I could make.
You could make like a platform with a 5 gallon bucket underneath it, I guess, if you like really needed
No, no,
to.
I'm saying build a platform around your toilet, like the idea of the squatty potty, but it's just like it like raise so you can
Well,
step
okay,
up to it
so the
like with
only problem,
stairs.
you would have to do that in like a private bathroom because otherwise, anytime you have people over, they're going to be not know what's happening.
You're
And
right. You're right. I guess you don't have any private bathrooms, right?
yes, so you could do it in your van. Um, Also, you're
I
still left
couldn't
with
really. There's not really room for it.
you need to have something to catch the pee. You'd have to build some kind of custom pee catcher on the front of your regular Western toilet.
Every time I did squat to poop, though, I also did the same thing. I was like very manually directing my stream because otherwise I would pee on my shorts.
Also, you have to have everyone in the house to be on board with it, and I don't think Hana would be on board with that. I don't think he cares
I
as
would
much.
just like as an experiment. Like I just would like really want to try it a couple
Hey,
of times.
you and me both. Maybe we could just build some kind of, oh, what'd be great is if you could have some kind of something that folds down from the back of the wall. If you built something that like goes up and then you could pull it down, goes up against flat against the wall behind the toilet, and then you could pull it down, squat on that, and then continue on with your day. And everybody's happy. Guests are
A
okay.
Murphy squatty potty. It's like a Murphy bed.
Murphy bed's one that goes up against the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it folds down.
Anyways, I
Thank
think,
you so much. You're
wow, now you got hot water and a cup of tea?
yeah.
Okay. Why are AM and PM called AM and PM? Question mark. I mean, it's a very straightforward question. You're getting all annoyed at me for asking basic questions. So
What?
the most literal answer to this question is that AM and PM stand for antemeridian and postmeridian,
Oh,
before noon and afternoon.
okay.
So meridian of the sun would be when it's at its highest in the sky. So before the sun is highest in the sky and after the sun is highest in the sky. It's the most literal interpretation of that question. So I had some secondary questions of my own, like were there any other systems that employed a 12-hour system or different, like not a 12-hour system of time? Because right now it's 12 hours before noon, 12 hours after noon. Those are the only two time
Yeah,
zones. So is
yeah.
there like 6 hours, 9 hours? Um, let's see. So when the French Revolution happened, French were like, F the old system, we're establishing our own time system. So they established a 10-hour day where there was 100 minutes of 100 seconds, which worked out to exactly 100,000 seconds per day.
Mm.
I'm not sure So I'm assuming they were just basing it off of the regular old clock from midnight to midnight. They were like, we're dividing this up into 100,000 seconds.
Yeah.
And so it just made a bunch of hours.
They also had
Each
like a
hour
10-day
was
week,
kind of
right?
long. I don't know. I didn't see anything
I
about
think
that.
they did. I think I remember like I think that's also the only time I've ever heard of people trying to change time. Um, and I think like the reason cited why it didn't stick was because the 10-day week was too long. Uh,
Yeah. Well, also it kind of begs the question of like, how long are you working? Are you working for 9 days straight and then taking the 10th day off or what? Um,
don't be. I mean, people take 2 days off a week right now. 5 days on, 2 days off.
yeah. So I guess you would have to take 8 days on and 2 days off. How's that working out?
I feel like that's kind of too much. I think it's probably more like 7 days on, three
Hang
days
on a
off,
second.
right?
Hey, Quinton, if you're not gonna be quiet out here, you're gonna have to go inside, bud.
Yeah, that sounds gonna be in my eyes in like 5 minutes.
Sorry. Um,
That's okay. That's all right. You just suck a lot.
can move again, I guess. Okay, so then my other thoughts were like, when was the AM and PM first established? It's been going on since Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt started using the two different time zones. I don't think they were the ones that started using AM and PM specifically, but they were the first. It's like we have been using the like morning versus evening, two different versions ever since way back in ancient times. And all of their clocks, like the sundials and all that nonsense, whatever they used to measure time, divided things into 12-hour segments, two 12-hour chunks of the day. The first known use of anti-meridian was in 1563. So I don't know, a while ago. I'm not sure exactly when. I probably should have given some context to when 1563 was, but I didn't find anything. I don't know when in history that was because I'm really bad at history. And I was wondering if there were any other options to anti-meridian. Like, was there anybody else who wanted to name the post, like name it something else other than AM or PM? And I could find nothing. So maybe they were uncontested. I'm sure it must have been like a battle because you don't standardize that kind of thing without some people saying something about it or getting annoyed. But there was nothing I could find on short notice that was like, were people upset about this naming? Standardization of the time zone names? I don't know. No further details to add.
Hmm. I think that's a lot less interesting than I thought it was going to be. No, I think like the most interesting part was like how like the French like tried to do their own thing for a while. I'm actually pretty interested in that. Why didn't that work? Because I kind of like the base 10 like way of approaching time better. Like in my mind,
It's more
that it
round. It
sounds
feels,
better.
yeah,
Yeah,
nicer.
kind of like how like Celsius is like boiling. Boiling is 100 and freezing is 0.
Yeah.
And that's just like a really clean, neat way
Feels,
to approach it. It
yeah,
feels
it's
good.
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. There was other systems I saw somewhere that said that some people were dividing time zones up by 6 hours or 9 hours, where it's like multiples of three. But I saw it mentioned, and then I couldn't find any more resources on what cultures actually did that. But it
Hmm.
seems like the 12-hour clock ness has been a thing for a long time. Not much variation going on there, unfortunately. Although, it brings up the question, this is not one of your questions, but I really want to understand how base 10 systems, non-base 10 counting systems work. I don't understand. How the heck does that work?
Uh,
I don't understand non-base 10 counting systems.
I mean that well, time is a non-base 10 counting system.
How though? I don't.
24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. Um,
But those are just like landmark moments in the time counting system. You're still
yeah,
counting to
yeah, but
10.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. For a 10, but base 10, 10 is 10, and 100 is 10 times 10.
Mhm.
Um, I guess we still like count our years in centuries, but we use 60 seconds in a minute. I'm not sure why. Like,
I don't think these are variations of the base 10 though. These are still base 10.
no, it's not. It's not. But it's at the same time, it's like it's just like we're using like random numbers to mark our increments for the different things. And I think it would be very similar if we weren't using
This is my
base
next
10.
question. Research this and get back to me.
What?
What is different about base 10 counting systems? Because I'm pretty sure you're wrong about whatever you're saying.
Well, fuck off. Um, cars playing loud noises before crash to prevent hearing damage. This is the literal text of the question. Um,
Yeah, this was something that I heard on a Radiolab episode, I want to say. It was just like mentioned offhand and talking, I think they were talking about tinnitus. And I was like, what? That's interesting. That sounds kind of cool. But that was the extent of my knowledge on it. Continue,
okay,
please.
so apparently, you have the smallest bone in the human body is the bone in the ear. It's called the stapes, and you have I think it's called the stapes muscle. Hang on. Stapes muscle is connected to the stapes bone, and essentially its job is to contract and dampen the vibrations when they come into your ears when you're hearing a noise that is too loud. So this is actually very interesting. Um, so I have some numbers here. So the stapedius reflex provides a reduction of about 15 to 20 decibels. Sorry. And to put that in perspective, it turns the roar of a loud gasoline lawnmower 90 decibels down to the level of a vacuum cleaner, about 70 to 75. It's most effective at frequencies below 2000 hertz, and it does very little to protect you from high-pitched, piercing sounds like whistles and glass shattering.
Wait, you're saying this is a, a bone in your ear that moves to make.
It's a muscle. It's a muscle in your ear that contracts to dampen the vibrations that come into your ear when the volumes get too high.
Interesting.
So it's like a built-in hearing muff,
That's kind
basically.
of crazy. How did that evolve? Like, what
Uh,
loud noises were there when we were evolving that needed that muscle?
I
Anyways,
don't. I mean, well, okay. So like, I think the explanation that I heard from a video that I watched is that like your hearing apparatus is extremely sensitive in the first place,
mhm.
and so uh, that would have just like helped. It just dramatically helps you to prevent hearing loss if you have sustained loud noises.
Right.
Um,
I'm just wondering, like, what loud noises there are in nature that would have even prompted that, like trees falling over, loud animals,
yeah,
rocks
it would have
falling.
been a lot less common and a lot less frequent before modern times. I think to have like loud noises that could possibly damage your ears.
Right.
Although like I think cannons, I feel like I remember reading stuff about people going deaf from using firearms. Um, when firearms were developed.
Mhm.
But okay, so like
That'll do it. Them firearms is loud.
so okay, the problem though is that the stapedius reflex is not fast enough to protect you against really short, brief, loud sounds. So it takes about 25 to 150 milliseconds for the muscle to actually tighten once a sound hits. And this means that you have zero protection against impulse noises like gunshots or balloon pop. The sound wave has already damaged the delicate hair cells in your cochlea before the muscle has finished twitching. So the stapedius can also get tired. If you are at a loud concert for 3 hours, the reflex will eventually weaken. This is why your ears might feel full and start ringing after prolonged exposure. The
Hmm.
muscle has essentially given up, and the full force of the sound is hitting your ear.
Jeez, that's a
Um,
bummer.
yeah.
Um,
So, this is like I think one of the most interesting fun facts about this. So, apparently, your stapedius muscle actually tightens every time you speak.
Interesting.
Yeah, so to prevent you from deafening yourself over time.
Every time, wait, so I, as a person, every time I'm speaking, my muscle is
Apparently, yeah,
flexing my
apparently
ear.
like the noise that you make internally from your own voice is potentially loud enough to damage your hearing.
Interesting. So that
And
must have been the use case originally. It's like they, that must have been how it evolved originally. It's like your own personal,
I guess
must
so.
have been a response to much lower noises than we would have expected.
Yeah, it did say that it's only really effective against low frequency noises, so deeper sounds, not higher pitched
Okay,
ones.
so how does this relate to car crashes though?
Okay, so the
Tell me the things.
Mercedes-Benz does have a feature in some of their more advanced models. I didn't check which models because I don't care. That will, if it detects that a car crash is imminent, it will play a loud 80 decibel pink noise sound, which is like all of the different like tones together
Mhm.
um, before the crash in order to essentially cause your stapedius muscle to contract, therefore offering you a bit of hearing protection against the much louder noise of the crash.
Mhm.
And a crash can be like 160 decibels, 65
Okay.
decibels.
So it's like a way to ramp up your hearing because that muscle only triggers for like sustained noises. So if it's like here's it first, it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
started contracting, and then the loud noise actually hits. But how does it know when a car crash is imminent?
I think it's probably, well,
Does it just play it anytime you get too close to something?
I assume it's because of like self-driving features, like
Oh, so
lane
it's not just
assist.
like regular things, a regular car.
I mean, lane assist knows like where other cars are on the road,
That's
and
true.
it can
So if a car just
it'll
got too close
beep
to
at
you,
you
would
if
it
other
beep at
cars
you?
get too close to you. Yeah, or if you get too close to other cars, it'll beep
Interesting.
at you.
Okay.
So it knows that you are.
So this noise is not something that's going to be like sound super loud. It would probably just sound like a regular
It'll be
beep.
80 decibels, which is
Oh, what is that?
but for reference, a lawnmower is 90.
Okay.
So I mean it's decibels are an exponential curve.
Pink
So
noise.
it's gonna be it would be a lot less loud than a lawnmower.
Okay.
Um, I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know what's. Let me real quick just
Honestly,
search.
I have a lot more questions, but I think we should probably move on to the next question.
You should probably shut up.
This is a genuinely interesting question. I want to know more about this topic. Okay. What are you looking at?
Just where things are 80 decibels.
No
So
time for searching things
heavy
up.
city traffic, a noisy restaurant, a garbage disposal, food blender. Okay, so yeah, these are things that are much less loud than a lawnmower.
Okay. All right. So next question. Why does the US and Canada use imperial and not metric? So the US and Canada, most of the world, I guess. Honestly, for some reason, this is always a confusing topic to me. So the British, UK use metric, right? And the US and Canada use imperial systems to measure things, right? Okay. Um, so right now, the US is actually sort of a hybrid. I mean, they use a bunch because there's a lot of international things happening. So there's not really like a standard system in the US. Like this is the US's system. I don't think it says anywhere like the US is an imperial. I might be wrong about that, but
U.S. scientists use metric.
yes. So that's why it's kind of like a hybrid. It's like anytime you're doing anything like science related or like something that needs to be standardized and like accurate, I think they usually use metric. But if it's something else like industrial workers or like other regular people, and people are manufacturing things for the regular person, then it's usually imperial. And the short answer to this question is because people suck at changing things. Okay, so the story goes that when the US was revolutionizing and trying to make themselves free from the British, they were using the imperial system. I don't know, confusing. Honestly, it confused. But they were using this imperial system, and then they won the war, and the British go back, the US are doing their thing, and then over time, the UK and all of the other people are like, hey, we've got all these people doing all these different things. We need a standardization process. So they standardize and come up with the metric system, which I think is called IS, stands for something else. Do you know what it stands for?
No,
Um,
international
oh, I can't remember what it stands for.
something.
So they have their own standardization process, and the US is like, no, F you guys, we're doing our own thing still. So they stick with what the Brits were using before, because they had brought it over, because obviously when everybody came over to America from the UK, Europe, they brought with them all of the standard imperial metric systems. All of these measuring systems were brought over, and they were still using them. So when the revolution happens, they're still using them. And then the Brits go back, and the U.S. is still using all those systems of measurement. And then the Europe is like, now we're doing this, and the U.S. is like, no, we're not. You guys can do that if you want, but we're doing our own thing. We're sticking with what we know. So they just kept what they were doing,
Mm.
um, and that's why we still use sort of. It doesn't really answer the question of why Canada is also doing the same thing. I'm assuming for similar reasons because they.
I actually have watched a video about this one time about the Canadian like imperial metric thing because like Canadians are officially metric, but they
Mhm.
use imperial for a lot of like local stuff to the point where it's like a huge jumbled mess. They're like equally half and half using both all the time.
Yeah.
And and converting, I think, between
Well,
both
I
all
think
the
it's
time.
also because it's tricky to you would have to like force people to change and be like, this is what we're doing now. All of that old stuff that you guys were doing is dead. We're not doing that anymore. Now you guys are doing this. And then you
Yeah,
would have to
yeah,
enforce it,
yeah.
which is a very large undertaking for a whole country, especially one as big as the US or Canada. Um,
I mean, yeah, actually, so thinking about that problem, because I think like the Canadians did try to force it, or at least on the roadways.
Hmm.
But apparently, that's like the only place where they successfully did force it. Like,
Because like you could force it where you have like a decent amount of active control, but everywhere else where you don't have like full control of people's lives and like the company's lives, I guess, because you would have to standardize it for companies
yeah,
to be able to enforce it with the people.
yeah.
Anyways,
It is kind of weird though. It's kind of a thorny problem because I think that like honestly, it does seem kind of like worth it. As a project to like start the process of forcing new people to, making new stuff
hmm
not to use one or the other.
hmm
And I think like eventually that would like slowly edit it out, and eventually like maybe it wouldn't happen as soon, but in like 20 years everyone would switch over.
yeah,
But
you need like some propaganda, some subtle propaganda, some
yeah,
nudging.
it wouldn't even be that hard. It would
Yeah.
just take a long time. But at the same time, I was talking with a buddy about this one time randomly, and he used to work in a machine shop, and he said like, yeah, like the imperial system is built into all of the machines and equipment. Like they don't that, and there is no easy way to like so like for example, when you turn the crank on the lathe,
hmm
it measures in thousandths of an inch, and
hmm
it's built into the fucking lathe. And so, in
Right.
order to get it to measure in like millimeters, you would have to
Pull out some kind of secondary measuring system.
yeah, like sometimes it's like literally physically etched into the machine,
Hmm.
like marks are
Right.
etched into the machine,
Right.
and also like the size of the screw that you turn, it's just like it's all built into the machine. So like if you're gonna, you would have to like if you're gonna force that at the level of a machine shop and a hardware like manufacturer,
Yeah.
they would have to change out all of their equipment, or at least like change out significant parts of it. It would not be a trivial change.
Well, yeah, it also doesn't help that like 90%, like basically anytime you want to DIY a project or do like anything, the toolkits they sell you both sets of tools for both of them. So it's not like, oh, I bought this set of tools and it only has metric. Now I have to go get a secondary set of tools. I mean, I guess you can get that standardized
Yeah,
if you want, but like the tool set I have
yeah,
has one side for metric and one side for imperial.
yeah.
And so it's kind of like, oh, well, it's a bummer that I have to switch and I don't know which one is which, but I have both the tools, so it's not really that big of a problem, I guess.
Yeah. I think it would not be a difficult problem to solve. You just have to say like you're not allowed to produce things that have this kind of measurement after this date. Um, and or at least or actually no, you just say like you're not allowed to produce things that don't have both kinds of measurements after this date.
Yeah. Okay.
And that I think would go really long way. And then like 10 years after that, you just say now you're not allowed to produce things that have the imperial measurement. And like by that time, everyone would have switched naturally.
Yes. Okay. You got five
Yeah,
minutes.
actually, I like that. And the more I think about that, the more I'm just like, why is it not mandated that you have to use both? You know, I think that would go a really long way to solving a lot of problems.
No, next question. Go.
Okay, so the Rorschach test was debunked. First of all,
Wait,
false.
was that my question?
Yeah.
What was my question?
The question was literally good or bad. I heard the Rorschach test was debunked.
I don't. I don't know why it's like good or bad, but yes. Okay. Rorschach
I don't know.
test.
Maybe the good or bad was from the previous question. I don't
Uh,
know. But okay, the Rorschach test has not been debunked. This is a very very interesting question for me. Okay, so essentially, the Rorschach test is used in adversarial psychology primarily. It's usually used when there's like a criminal trial and they need to do a diagnostic on an unwilling person to assess their mental state.
adversarial
Yeah,
psychology. Okay.
yeah. And so like this actually like got this made me very defensive because I was like, what? You can tell what my personality is even when I'm not willing to cooperate.
Mhm.
And I was like immediately sort of distrustful. But it seems like maybe I just have distrust issues about science. uh, but okay, so
We both have trust issues.
it was first
It's a
introduced
thing.
by a Swiss psychiatrist in 1921. While many of it think of it as designed to read your deepest, darkest secrets, its original story was actually a mix of childhood games, art, and strategic ending. He was just trying to see like what people's responses would tell about them and sort of like what things they focused on and didn't focus on,
Yeah.
which is it is still how it's used. But he died 3 years after he created it, and he was not able to go on to like defend or refine it in the future. So it was kind of taken out of context and used after his death, for better or worse, a lot, and has gained sort of a black sheep negative reputation.
Wait, so why do people think it
Um,
was debunked though? Why do I think it was debunked? Because I'm,
because
well,
it
I
is
guess
not so.
it doesn't even need to
So
be
first
debunked.
of all, it is not used in standard psychology. Any sort of like it is basically only used in adversarial psychology, where they're trying to learn about your personality and psychology without your cooperation.
Did
So
you
like
read anything?
any normal doctor patient um, situation would not use it. And
But how do they get your cooperation without, like, if you're not willing to respond? They show you a picture and I say, and I don't respond. I'm just like deadpan person who's not willing to
um,
respond to anything. Because I feel like that requires a fair amount of active engagement. Like,
So, okay, so in a criminal case, I think that's actually, it's generally speaking never true because if you refuse to respond, it almost always counts against you. So, you are almost always incentivized to respond in some way. And so
so they're like, if you don't respond to this, the jury is going to think you have something to hide. So either answer the question or B, make it look
I
like you're guilty
I don't actually know.
type
So like
thing.
I think the primary use case for this is when is plead insanity
Okay.
defense.
Mhm.
And in that case, you have to sort of like show how sane you are. And so
But people always want the insanity charge. But that's what they always say in TV shows.
what?
If TV shows have ever taught me anything, it's like always they're like, oh, we can always get you off on the insanity plea or
I
whatever.
don't actually know how that works. I don't know how a lot of things work
I
in
mean,
this
it's
case.
TV show logic,
And
so
I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly how the Rorschach test. I know it was, so I asked probably like 7 or 8 questions about it because it was very interesting. So it is Um, it is used, so like modern Rorschach test is basically used as a statistical measure. They have they've asked like a statistical number of people, I'm assuming many thousands, the same questions using the same ink blot things.
mhm.
And they're all like very ambiguous, sort of like open-ended questions. And there's the same prompt. And then they have like logged responses and they have categorized, quote, normal responses. They
Mhm.
also have like, apparently in this adversarial
Normal.
psychology, they also like do a lot to account for people who already know the test
Hmm.
and also people who are defensive and who don't want to answer the test. They have like scoring metrics. It seems very interesting.
This seems like
Um,
fairly rigorous. I thought you said that it has kind of a
it does. So it has a
poor
negative
reputation.
as a poor reputation because like okay, you would never use this in a normal psychological practice because it's sort of like it's very. I think one of the things that they said is
Time's
that
up.
it makes it over pathologizes people
Right.
essentially and honestly okay I when I was first reading about this I was just like what okay this makes me very uncomfortable because like I've had at least one if not more interactions with real police officers who were who had already decided that they wanted to like pin me for some like crime
Mhm.
before they even had any evidence of anything. And it was extremely stressful. It was just like, holy fuck. Like, um, because I've heard like I've listened to people. So like I do definitely on some level like question if the adversarial psychology thing like I guess like it's like I think this would probably only be used in a situation where somebody is trying to prove that they are insane. And I don't know, so like they use statistical measures, like how you respond to things, like how avoidant are you, like how much are you trying to avoid the question. They also have like measures for, I think if I remember right, this is only used to essentially assess like schizophrenia and or psychopathy. And I think like I sort of get the idea that that's like the only two things that they can really tell because like they can tell like if your perceptions are really weird, that usually means you're schizophrenic. Like if you see something and you read into it something that nobody else does, then they know that you have like weird abnormal perceptions. That usually means schizophrenia. And then and I don't know. It's not used everywhere though. They don't use this in the UK. and also other parts of Europe.
It's been banned, or they just don't use it?
It's just not. It's not. Yeah, I don't know if there's a difference. It's not used. It's not used as admissible evidence in a court of law,
Mhm.
but it is apparently in a lot of other places, including America. And
Oh,
so there's other tests that they use. Um, the MMPI is a famous test for it uses validity scales, but also like so the problem with psychoanalysts psychoanalysis in an adversarial setting is that they're relying on self-reported data. So like these tests are very interesting because they are also trying to account for like people who are trying to pass the test either by answering the questions in the right way
mhm.
or like they have prior knowledge of the test and trying to answer the questions in such a way that like will make them seem sane. But it's really difficult to do that with the Rorschach test, even if you have prior knowledge of the test, because it is much more open ended and there aren't predefined like yes or no questions.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. It's very interesting. It's also never used by itself. You would never use the Rorschach test by itself. It's always used as like additional evidence
Like
along
supporting
with
evidence
other,
of
yeah, supporting evidence.
more
Yeah,
well supported, or
yeah,
like clinical psychology.
yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, so that's basically all of it, I guess.
Okay. Um, Next question.
I just want to say that okay, so like having been at least one case already where like the system was trying to pin me for something that I hadn't done.
Yeah.
Um, it that it gives me a lot of pause to think that like I don't know, like I think that probably these tests are pretty good at spotting schizophrenia and or like other mental health conditions, but they probably are not as good at like showing if you actually did the crime, you know?
Mm.
I don't know how it all works. I've heard too many horror stories of people being convicted for crimes that they didn't do on really poor evidence.
Yeah.
And so I just like I would have to look into this a lot more before I felt confident that these like psychological adversarial psychological tests would hold water for me and my like if someone in my family was going through one of these situations, I would be like I would question a lot of things and want to know a lot more about it before I
Well,
felt like it was actually like a valid thing.
yeah. I mean, I'm feeling like it's probably more like they are saying like based on all of the evidence we have and like the clinical psychological things that were done, this person seems like they are schizophrenic maybe, and then this is one of the ways that we made it seem more conclusive that this person is schizophrenic. I don't know. That seems how it would have been used. And seems like that's what you're saying, how it is being used, but I don't know. I didn't do the research. Anyways, okay, next question. And then I need to go pee. Um, what is the fastest animal relative to its weights?
Yeah.
Yeah, question. Okay, so
Is it a nematode?
no. What's a nematode?
It's like a worm.
Oh, nope.
A really microscopic
It
worm.
is the Paratarsotomus macropolypus. It's a sesame seed-sized mite that lives in the pavement rocks of Southern California.
Wow.
This athletic arachnid has been clocked reaching speeds of 322 body lengths per second,
Whoa.
which is equivalent to a human running at 1,300 miles per hour,
Hey.
which is pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, this is a very straightforward answer to your question, and there's not really much else to say to it other than that's like insanely fast for a creature to move based on its relative like size.
Hmm.
I mean, also it is like extremely small. It's the size of a sesame seed, so it's not. When you think about it, like moving that amount of mass that quickly is not as impressive, but it's still pretty cool. So I wanted to know what if there was other like ways of measuring like mass times speed, like which one is the quickest, if there's like an elephant versus another animal that is the same size, or like a human, are there any animals that are like human mass sized or whatever? So there's this website, it's called Speed of Animals, um, and it will give you the relative speed of an animal based on its weight. Um, but it's not, I don't know, it's, I don't know, malfunctioning a little bit. It looks like it was kind of hard to read. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm not really sure. Shows the top speed of animals and how fast they would be going if they were your size, or what your speed feels like to them. So if you were 6'1", your top speed would feel like, I'm not sure how to read this, is the problem. Here, hold this for a
All
second.
good,
I
all
gotta,
good,
I
all
gotta
good.
go pee.
Okay. I feel like fleas are probably somewhere really high on this list. I think I read somewhere that fleas were the top um,
Hold on.
speed per body size. Last one.
Your last question?
Yeah.
I still have three more.
Okay, well, then you pick up the pace.
You wanted to know what the most dystopian real life culture slash civilization was that didn't make it,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand the question. So, well, okay, so can you elaborate? Were you asking about dystopias like 1984 type dystopia, or were you talking about like cultures or civilizations that are similar to like something out of a fantasy novel where it's like the culture is based off of the natural elements, and it's like the culture believes that the wind is the god, so that all of their buildings and everything about their society reflects like is
I mean,
wind shaped or
no, that's not
wind-esque.
dystopic. Dystopic is usually like it's like relative technology and advancement compared to with like backwards thinking, you know?
Oh, I see. So
Backwards thinking and
I'm not sure that's what
application.
dystopia means.
I mean, it's like not exactly, but like usually dystopia is just like in the future we have better technology, but somehow worse lives.
Oh, I see. I think it's more. Is that more steampunk? I don't think it's more steampunk.
No, it's
Anyways,
not simple.
when I
That's dystopic.
when I
That's
looked
dystopic.
this
That's
up,
what it means. It's
most of
like
the
we went backwards, even though we all the things
progressed
pointed forward.
technologically,
Yeah,
but our lives got worse.
yeah.
I suppose. So when I looked this up, most of the things that people had to say were about like any kind of the genocidal people, like revolutions that went really wrong, and like communist societies that like where they were trying to be better for the people and ended up turning into like nightmares situations, or like North Korea is cited as being a dystopia. Um, so it didn't really.
Mm.
I didn't know if that's what you wanted because that seemed like a straight, just a too easy question. Because there's been a lot of societies that have like started and been like people want to make their lives better, so they kind of just take over everything, and then now the government is in control, and the government is running things really poorly, and it's is going bad for everybody. Um, so that was kind of like this short answer to the question, which didn't seem very interesting, and I didn't think you would want to know about that, but I couldn't find anything else. I thought it was a more interesting question to ask, like about cultures that are based on things that like in fantasy novels, you know what I'm saying? Like in Avatar, like all of the cultures, like the Earth Kingdom, the Water King, or like the Water Tribes, they all
Yeah,
have
yeah,
like specific things that are based on
yeah,
their element,
yeah.
and they like their whole culture and society is based around that element, and so it kind of like manifests in everything, like the clothes that they wear, the way their buildings are shaped, the way they talk to people. And I always thought, like, why don't we have that in real life? You know what I mean? Why is that always like a common theme in fantasy or even sci-fi sometimes? But it never, it seems like a logical progression. It seems like this culture really values this one thing. And so everything in their culture reflects those things that they value. But for some reason, as humans, we don't actually work that way. Um, and I don't know why. I was curious, but I found no information. So we're moving on.
Okay. I think probably the most dystopic culture is probably like the Soviet Union and maybe like North Korea. Those are pretty up there. Although I think
North
there's
Korea is
like
still going though. They're
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
alive and
yeah,
kicking.
yeah. I mean, I count it. I count it. It is really, I think, but also like there's a lot of places where there's like relative poverty, but now with the internet, the need for the relative poverty is kind of much lower because like now people know how to do things or can know how to do things. And I think that that's also pretty dystopic. It's also to me, it's kind of dystopic how like some people would rather live like I watched this video with like these people who live in the Amazon and they don't care about money or education. They're just living happy lives. But also like they have no modern conveniences and no medicine, and they also like die early a lot. and but they're just kind of like okay with that trade.
Yeah, I mean, is
And
it a bad thing
I
to?
think it's kind of weird. I like for me,
It is like kind of an interesting. It's like, do you want your life to be longer and maybe less happy, or do you want to live a happier life that is like more like I don't know, more purposeful maybe, or just like more intrinsically valuable?
yeah.
Not intrinsic. I don't know. Is it
I
valuable?
mean,
Like,
this is
what is
this
the?
is with the
These
internet.
are
Like these people have
theological
smartphones
questions,
and are like addicted
philosophical
to TikTok.
questions. Oh, these people in the Amazon?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said they didn't have anything.
I mean, they don't really have electricity. Like, no, they have enough electricity for their phones, but that's not to say they have like running water.
But everything else is
Yeah,
like
yeah, they don't have running water. They live in
primitive.
shacks. Yeah, like extremely primitive. Like
But
they get antibiotics sometimes, I think, but they don't
but
really know how to use them.
they're happy.
Yeah, but they're very happy.
Interesting. Um, I've always felt like that's kind of the way we're going. Well, no, never mind. I take it back. Tangent.
I don't think it's better. I think that, or at least like,
If there is a nuclear war, how many people would probably die, and how long would it take for the planet and also people to recover in numbers? So I mainly just answered the first part of this question, and not even really that well, because the first only easy source I could find said that if Russia and the U.S. had a nuclear bouts exchange. In the initial exchange of nuclear weapons, 34 million people would die, and then another 57 million would be injured or die from the.
Fallout.
Wait. No, I take it back. No. 34 million people would die initially. 57 million people would be injured, and then that's not counting the fallout or like destruction of natural resources like food sources, or like access to clean water and all of that stuff. So 34 plus 57 is, I don't know, 90 something. Bad at math. Anyways, lots of people.
That's still like only 100 million, and we have like 9 billion. We'd be
9
fine. Like
billion.
humanity would be
What are you talking
fine.
about?
9 billion on the planet,
No, it's like,
isn't it?
I think
We
it's
just I thought we just
almost
passed
8.
nine.
I think it's maybe if we
Oh,
just passed 8. I don't know. Definitely not 9 though. But if Pakistan and India went to
oh,
war, that would
8.3.
kill 2
Okay, we just passed
billion.
8. Never mind.
2 billion people would die if Pakistan and India went to war.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Ooh, that's very interesting. So it really changes based on who's fighting
But yeah, well, also India is significantly more densely populated than the U.S.
and
Um,
less wealthy.
yeah. So yeah, because I think if India was attacked, I think a lot of their food and stuff is like right there. Like the U.S. gets a lot of their food from overseas. No, what am I saying? No, they don't. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think the U.S.'s food sources are a little more spread out, so we could probably truck things in if we needed to.
I don't think we get
I
well,
have no idea what I'm
I
talking
don't
about.
know.
Um,
I mean,
Anyways,
I
but I
actually
think
do
the
think that's
problem with
true.
a nuclear war isn't that two countries only would get involved. I think the problem is like if two countries were to fire off nuclear weapons, the other countries that they are allied with would also be obligated to also fire off nuclear weapons, and then it would be like a whole bunch going off at once for different countries. So
That's interesting. You should have followed. You should have asked that.
I should have asked that, but I didn't. I didn't. So
Yeah.
here we are. Anyways, 2 billion people is, in the grand scheme of things, not that many, which is kind of crazy because 2 billion people is like a shit ton of people. But also, out of eight,
Yeah.
there's still a
Yeah.
lot of people left.
Humanity is definitely not going extinct.
Yeah, I mean,
Over like one nuclear exchange.
apocalypses are weird because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh man, the apocalypse happened and we restarted as a society. I don't think that's ever going to happen though, because
Yeah, it would have to be like,
like our infrastructure is shockingly susceptible to damage and like going down, but also there are a crap ton of people out there, and unless there was something like some kind of airborne not RPG, what's the EMP something that was like there was some show that did like a thing where all of the electronics in the whole world were corrupted by some like airborne tiny micro robot, and all of the electronics were corrupted, and then everything electronic went down at the same time, and it was all like corrupted, so there was no way to bring it back to life. That is the only scenario I can see that would actually take out or like actually be apocalyptic, because every other situation is like, oh, there was a ton of damage dealt to this half of the population. The other half of the population is fine, and things are bad for like a couple weeks, and then we just get back on our feet and we keep going with our
yeah,
lives.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think it's like we could. I also think my intuition is that like like people do this. Okay, this is something I've been thinking about recently. Like there's like uh severity versus frequency, like risk calculation. Like some people are like, we should think of the worst case scenario, and no matter how small the likelihood is, prepare for it because it's so bad that we should prepare for that. And then other people are like, no, we should just like handle the most likely, least severe cases and just focus on those. And I think like
Silly.
I'm starting to realize that like likely least severe is a way better thing to focus on because like those things are almost always like relevant and actionable, and the things that are like worst case and like very unlikely are almost never relevant and actionable. And if you focus on the other side first, you're just gonna make the super bad, super unlikely side less likely, even though I mean, like technology improves, it might get worse with time. Like
Yeah.
the projected, but it's just like just focus on what is present. Like the most likely things are usually like actually the things that we should be
See,
focusing on.
anti-gain of function research.
What?
It's like where this is with the whole
Is that the
lab.
premise of gain and function?
Uh, it's like creating viruses or creating bad things in order to understand how to stop them better. I think specifically with viruses or
No,
like
okay, like the whole premise
bacteria.
of that argument is that like it's becoming easier and easier for a lay person to do something really bad. It's the same thing as like the terrorism argument. It's like like why aren't there more terrorists? It's so accessible to be a terrorist. And the answer is just because like actually like doing the worst thing imaginable is something that even like the worst people don't really want to do. Like the
Mm,
worst people are usually all like self-motivated and want to continue to survive and and even though they might want to kill a lot of other people, usually they can't do it in a way that doesn't also kill them. And so like terrorism happens, but it's usually always like political. Like terror is almost never the goal of terrorism. I don't know, they talk about this in the Freakonomics book, but
oh, right. Yeah,
um,
it's true.
but
Anyways,
this is why I've always said that I don't think that like the AI doomers are right, is because like it's exactly what they're doing. They're focusing on worst case scenario, even though it's like unlikely. They don't know how likely it is. They're focusing on it because they're like it's the worst case scenario. We should be prepared for
we
this.
have to be prepared.
And I think in reality, it's always just going to be like the smaller bad cases that are much more likely are actually where we should put our attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there are other things, but continue on. Next question.
What other things?
All the things. You don't know me, Bama.
Um, okay, so
Last question for you. Last question for me.
all right, collective effervescence. Where does
Yeah.
it happen? And the answer is okay. So, what is collective effervescence? It's a term coined by pioneering sociologist Emil Durkheim in his 1912 work, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life. It describes the specific high or electric charge that occurs when a group of people come together for a shared purpose, causing them to feel as though they are part of something much larger than themselves. He argued that when people gather in high energy group, whether it's a religious ritual or a massive concert or a championship game on the shared focus, creates a feedback loop of emotion. So the shared focus, rhythmic entrainment. So almost always they're doing something together with a rhythm, and then there's like a loss of self. Like people sort of their individuals selves, like their ego begins to fade, and the collective takes over. They stop thinking about their own problems, start thinking about the vibe of the crowd. Modern examples: sports, concerts, raves, protests and marches, online communities. Um, and from a biological perspective, it's a massive hit of endorphins, oxytocin, dopamine, and the
Dude,
problem is that it's not always positive. It builds community, reduces loneliness, creates a sense of meaning. The bad, it can also be used for mob mentality, cults, political radicalizations. When the self disappears, so does the individual critical thinking. This is how normal, quote, normal people can be swept into riots or harmful group behaviors. And yeah, okay, that's it.
that's it. Okay. Well, I mean, such an interesting phenomenon. It's wild. So, like, I don't know. You experience this at like parties you go to or like concerts? Have you? You don't go to any concerts?
No, no. I think the closest thing I've ever experienced is probably like religious ceremonies. Um,
Well, I mean, okay, yeah. So like, so
like when we were
I,
younger, there's a lot of religious stuff
dude,
that was like
if
that.
you go to a worship service today,
Yeah,
you will 100% feel it.
yeah.
Like, I do not believe in any of the Christian stuff anymore, and we still go to church on occasion because Hana leads worship. And like, anytime I go and we're all there singing, it's like, whoa, it's like a tangible feeling almost, especially if you're paying attention to it.
Yeah.
But this is not just like a worship thing. Like mob mentality for sure. There was this time I went to a soccer game with Joe, and we were there, and there was a whole section of the crowd that was like the enthusiasts, the people who were really into it, and they all were like had their shirts off and their bodies were painted and they're like waving things with flags and whatever. And they started getting amped up, and I was like, if those people decided to do something destructive, it, dude, it would be crazy. Um, because there's just like you can feel the charge. They were like probably 100 feet away from me, and I could feel like that charge of like everybody is all feeling the same thing, and there's that like energy in the environment. Anyways, I don't know. It's such a weird thing that we can feel the. I don't know if you can feel the emotions, but it's like, how does that even work? Like, how are we all in the same space doing the same thing, and all of a sudden I'm feeling like this glow, not glow, charge. I don't know. You can feel it though. I want to know how. I don't understand how it works, but it's definitely a thing. Anyways, I thought it was interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I'm sure this is what happens at raves too, or any kind of club um, scene where everybody's dancing, everybody's vibing.
I guess, but raves are usually like
Boosts the vibes because everybody's doing the same
I don't
thing.
think that is true at raves. Not in my experience. Not like that anyway. Because
It's not like
it's
a
like
club.
a rave. Like everybody is dancing and everybody's having fun, but also like almost nobody knows each other. Like usually at a rave, like people come with like one or two friends, and there's thousands of people, and so like there is no like sense of common anything. Usually it's like
Well,
every
you
like
don't. It doesn't
you're
have
very
to
aware
be.
that everyone I think often people are very friendly,
Mhm.
and make friends easily or whatever. But it's
You
like
don't feel
that's
like
not an individual level. It's not like
you don't feel like that whole like the number of people there all feeling sort of friendly-ish boosts the vibe of friendliness, and that's why it's easier to be friendly at a rave or like
no,
a club.
no.
You don't think so?
Absolutely, dude. Have you ever been to a club?
No.
Okay, then you would know that it's not a friendly atmosphere.
Okay.
It's really not. Like it's very antagonistic. Like most people, um, like if you are what if the standard of friendliness you're thinking of is like a community function where people are like open and willing to talk to each other in like a dating slash romantic environment, it's exactly the opposite. All the men don't want to talk to each other because men want to talk to women, and women are very guarded when it comes to men. So it's not friendly. It's
Mm.
like it's very you approach like cautiously. I
So you
mean, not
feel
like
like
cautiously, but it's like have to approach with really high energy to sort of like overcome their
so
unfriendliness.
you're feeling like this collective effervescence thing only happens if everybody is kind of already has the same goal or like the same
Yeah, like
like
I
there's
think
something else to focus on that is not just the group itself,
yeah, yeah.
outside of the group.
I think you're probably more likely to get this at like a political function or a religious ceremony than you are at a rave or at a
Right.
club. I mean, definitely not a club. Maybe a lot more at a rave than a club for sure. A club is like the opposite.
Um, Such an interesting question. I asked the best questions.
This is fun. I like this.
Okay, last question for me is why isn't there a device that can let me breathe underwater like a fish?
Yeah, why not?
Simple answer. Scuba gear.
Okay, but no, I meant
No,
like
it's not. Yeah, I understand. Okay, so scuba diving is like the closest thing, but there is nothing at this point that will allow you to. You're thinking like gills, right? Like
I'm thinking,
take
yeah, like
oxygen from the
break the
water.
water
Yeah,
down into
water comes in,
oxygen,
get the
carbon dioxide.
oxygen,
Yeah,
water goes out,
yeah,
stay underwater for a long time.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So there's something called a rebreather, um, which is part of scuba gear, which is not really the same thing. So a rebreather in scuba gear will function. It
It's
will take the oxygen that you breathe out. So you breathe in the oxygen from your oxygen tank, and then
yeah,
when you breathe out, there's still a lot of wasted oxygen that comes out when you exhale.
yeah.
So the rebreather will catch all that wasted oxygen, put it back into your oxygen tank, and let you breathe for longer. So it
I did not know that. That's
wastes
really
less
cool. Wait, how
oxygen
does
while
that
you're
work?
underwater. I don't know, but it's a useful feature for scuba divers. But that is not the same thing. So the problem is There was one guy who looked like he was working on this problem, and there was like a device with some schematics that I saw that looked, he was like, it works. I'm skeptical because fish use 75% of the oxygen passing through their gills is extracted. Hold on a second. Where did I? So
75%?
fish require significantly less oxygen to breathe than humans do. It's like humans will need like 18 times. I don't know, I'm making up this number. They need a lot more oxygen to function than fish do. So fish,
That's insane.
first of all, fish require less oxygen to function.
What, is it just because they're
right off the bat.
smaller? Like a human-sized
I think
fish?
they're just built differently. So just right off the bat, fish have an advantage because they don't need as much oxygen. And then the other thing is that fish are especially adapted to move a lot of water over their gills. That's just how their gills function, is they can move tons of water over their gills quickly. And they're also extremely capable of taking all of, like, they can get 75% of the oxygen from the water that moves over their gill out of that water. So water comes in, they take 75% of the oxygen out of that water, which is almost all of the water, which is like insanely effective and not effective. What's the word I'm looking for?
Efficient.
Efficient, extremely efficient. And so for some kind of device like this to function, you would need to be able to move a lot of water over some kind of apparatus, and then you would need it to be extremely capable of extracting oxygen from the air. And you would also have to be able to extract a crap ton of oxygen from the water because humans need a lot more oxygen than fish do. So this guy said he had invented one and it was working. I'm skeptical because his device was like a little tube. But yeah, that's what I got for you.
What about the way that they do it in submarines? Like I always kind of assumed that that's like a really power hungry way of doing it, but imagine we had infinite power
I
in
think
like
they're
a little
doing
box.
I think they're doing a lot of rebreathing, I'm assuming. I know nothing about this, but just from speculation, I'm assuming they first of all pump a lot of oxygen into the atmosphere initially, and then they probably do a lot of air scrubbing. So it's probably more that they are scrubbing the air.
No, in a submarine, they don't bring oxygen with them. They split the water molecules into oxygen and carbon dioxide,
Really?
and then they use the oxygen. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
They can stay down. Uh, they don't resurface for air. They resurface for food.
Interesting.
They go down for
Oh,
months.
you're true. I've heard this before. So they
Yeah.
probably, okay, so they must have, I'm assuming they have some kind of rebreathing technology built into the subs as well. So all of the oxygen that they do get is being recycled
Mm.
and being reused. And then, but they
I think
also
you're
have
right though. They
like,
probably do scrub the CO2.
subs are like incredibly powerful. Don't they all have like nuclear reactors on board
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah,
So they have
yeah.
like a crap ton of energy to use. They're not lacking in power. And they're huge. Submarines are massive. Anyways, my eyes are going to cut themselves out of my head.
All right,
So bright out
we
here.
done?
Yeah.